Hello and welcome to another episode of NCSY Pulse. We are powered by NCSY alumni. My name is John Ackerman. Joining me today is a very special guest and old friend getting reacquainted, Deena Friedman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and getting to reconnect again. This is so fun.
It is a lot of fun. And for those watching or listening, Deena and I go way back to when her husband Avi and my wife Nechama were both at Einstein School of Medicine. And we had the adventure of being the spouses of medical students, which was so much fun all the time.
Yeah, we basically went to medical school.
Yeah. Do you ever feel that like people ask you questions because you're married to a doctor? They're like, hey, what do you think about this? It's like, oh,
No, they
yeah.
they just asked me if Avi can look at something, and I'm the secretary. I'm like,
Yeah.
sure, give me a disc. I'll go find him.
Me too. I get all the questions. We get a lot of, Nechama's an ER doc, so we
Yeah,
get a
that's a
lot of
good
like
one.
kid injuries, but it's not great because people show up all the time saying, "Hey, could you tell us if this is broken? Like, is this
So you
leg
need the
broken?"
radiologist.
Right.
Who doesn't have the equipment. So
Exactly,
here he
exactly.
is. You can't be here. Yeah, you can watch. You come say hi.
I
No.
just want to watch.
Oh,
Okay.
I hear Avi in the background. Excellent. A lot of
The
pressure when you have
doctor, he
somebody that's
works in the
watching you.
basement. So
Right, right. So that's convenient.
everybody's
That is
working at home.
I know, right? It's a great way to go. One of the things I like to tell people because I still have my Einstein ID is I don't know if you remember, it says like your name on it, and then it says spouse like stamped on it,
Yes.
and I was just like we couldn't just have an ID that had our name, like we had to like no no
That's so
no
funny. I totally forgot about those.
yeah like
I think
lest
I should
somebody
still have that. Clean,
uh,
like,
yeah, but like it's like lest someone accidentally think that we are a medical student.
right?
Like no 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 no, you're
No, we're
just a
just here in a
spouse.
supporting role.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Anyway, so here we are a few years later, and
Yeah.
Deena, you are the creator of a really cool Instagram account called Fun in the BC. You have, as you've kind of explained to me, accidentally found yourself in the role of being a Jewish influencer, somebody who can really convey a good amount of messaging for the Jewish people for Israel. With a little bit of a connection to NCSY currently that we'll get to in a little bit. But give us a little bit of background. What inspired you to sort of jump into the world of social media, and how has this community been for you so far?
So I love my account. It's called Fun in the BC, and I have a lot of fun doing it. I started it, I guess, like 6 years ago. I always loved Instagram and the creative aspects and the social aspects. And I was like everybody else, kind of behind the screen, watching everybody else. And I decided that I love to create, I'm a sharer, and I wanted to kind of go on the other end of it and be able to share on Instagram. So I decided to create an account based off of the things that people were always asking me, which was about details about the things that I was doing at the time with my kids. I like to have a lot of fun with my kids, and people were always asking for details of those adventures and the activities. So I figured my idea for my page was going to be sharing fun, literally fun in the BC, which stands for Bergen County, where I live in Teaneck with my husband and my 5 kids. At the time, 4 kids. And I just started to share fun things to do with the kids. And slowly it started to grow. And I really mostly was sharing a lot of my children and just kind of my fun with them and how cute they were because it was pretty small. So as it slowly was growing, I realized that I didn't want to share so much of my kids' personal lives because it was really like their day to day cuteness, but also, and they were getting older. So I realized I kind of had to share more of myself, which was hard for me. And it took a lot of uh, self confidence and growth. And if anybody wants to like learn about um, evolving as a person, start an Instagram account, and you are putting yourself completely out there and having to kind of stop worrying, which I have a hard time, just what everybody is thinking about you and just kind of doing what I love to do and to be. And I really enjoyed sharing and creating, and it was a really great outlet for me. I was home with my kids, and I actually worked at Einstein though for a bit there in between.
Really?
Yeah, I was a program coordinator at Einstein in between my third and fourth kid. But then
Wow.
when I had a baby, I wanted to be home with them. And so it was a great outlet for me to use my creative juices and talents, but kind of doing it from home, which has been really amazing.
Yes.
And it's grown now. It's not the biggest account. There are many bigger ones. But I really love it, and it's evolves into, I think it started out as just fun motherhood and finding the fun in motherhood, and I've tried to also find fun and meaning for moms, for myself. It's not just we want to have fun, but also kind of really loving being Jewish motherhood and to find it meaningful for ourselves as moms.
It sounds like a great place to start. Like you said, convenient, super convenient to do it at home, and doing what you're doing anyway, which is having fun with your kids and
Yeah.
creating something unique out of that. But I know that since you've begun this journey, you've also taken a little bit of a detour into becoming a fairly strong advocate for Israel and for the Jewish people, standing up to anti-Semitism, which I don't think was your initial intent, but sort of where you found yourself. So how has that been, and how did you find yourself in that arena?
Right. So I could never separate my Judaism from my page because I could never just be like a mom account because Judaism is integral in literally every aspect of my life. So it's always been a Jewish motherhood account. And I think since October 7th, a lot has changed for everybody. And for me, everything has changed in my approach to my life outside of social media, but also on social media. And I just saw like our family was in pain. And when your family is in the good times and in the bad times, the most important thing I think is to show up. And I had to find any which way that I could show up for our family in Israel. I had my own personal family that I was showing up for. I had cousins who were in the army at the time. And I wanted to be there for them, but I also wanted to show up for anybody who was watching my page. I do have people from Israel who are watching, and I just wanted them to know that we're here for them. And I don't even know. I don't think I'm like an Israel advocate. Like advocacy online, there are people doing amazing things for that. I found I was not comfortable becoming an advocate per se. I'm just showing up, and however I show up, I share it. So whether it's the, walks or I've hosted things in my home. I had Susie Fishbein here. We did a whole event in my home and we raised money for the hostage families, just sharing links for people to donate. I've raised money for Milu and Mommy meals. I think it's really important as women. We are so good at supporting each other, and that's what women do best. And especially if we were closer, I think we would all be cooking meals for the Miluim families, but we weren't able to be there in person. So I set my own family meals, but then I also wanted to just reach a broader community in Israel. So we raised money through Fun in the BC for mommy meals in different communities in Israel. And those connections that I created and gained have just been like so amazing for me. I feel lucky that I've been able to be a part of it because really the heroes are the women that I was able to connect with in Israel who are doing the real work of they were making the food and they were feeding the Miluim families, and we were able to raise the funds and they could use it. And I know that they felt the support by us. We were only able to send our money. We weren't able to actually go there in the kitchen and to cook, but I think they were able to feel the love and the support.
You talk about how, like, I didn't really mean to do it, and I don't really consider myself an advocate. But it's funny because you're talking about all these different things that you're doing that are what you would want an advocate to do. I remember the opposite of this is when I was younger, there was a teacher who I had some interesting experiences with who used to tell the students, it's not that you're a bad kid, you just do some of the things that a bad kid would do.
Right,
So you may not look at yourself as an advocate. So this is like the
right,
opposite of that in a good way, but you're doing so many of the things that an advocate would do. To put it another way, there are so many people who consider themselves advocates, who consider themselves, I don't mean to brag, and then
right,
they go on bragging about the little tiny things that they've accomplished or maybe haven't even accomplished. Meanwhile, you're doing all these things in the background, which are things that somebody who's advocating for Israel should be doing. So you may not consider yourself,
Right.
an advocate, but I think from the outside, many people, and even people who I've mentioned to, yeah, I would say I'm having Deena Friedman on the show, and people would say like, "Oh, I don't know who that is," and I'm like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Fun in the BC. Oh wow, Fun in the BC." But you're doing all these really special things. Have you seen? I think whenever you're talking about once you really get into it, doing things for Israel, speaking for Israel, there's always a response online. And sometimes that response is challenging to deal with because, you'll get your pro-Israel and Jewish followers who are excited and who are inspired and who in many ways will want to emulate what you're doing, which is awesome. But there's a second side to this, which is there's the negative response, there's the anti-Semitic response. Have you encountered any of that since you began?
Yeah, so I when I keep within my own community with social media, there's like, when you put something out there and then sometimes it just stays within your own community. And there, I just feel love and support from Jews and non-Jews. But if I reach a larger audience, then that's where the problems can come. I had one particular reel. My family, I started this thing with my kids where we go to Walmart on one night of Hanukkah where I want my kids to give instead of getting. And this is long before the war. We've been doing that. And then right after October 7th at Hanukkah, we did the same thing. And I took the kids to give out the gift cards. And we would just tell people, here's a gift card. It's Hanukkah tonight. Happy Hanukkah. Here's a gift. And
So
in
nice.
the, yeah, it is really actually really nice. Um, and in the aisle were two Muslim women, and that's who was there. And so, just like anybody else, I went over and I handed them the gift card. And one of the women started crying, and then I started crying, and then I was hugging her, and we were hugging in the aisles, and the cute little boy wanted a hug, and we were all hugging. And I shared that moment, which was a real moment. It really happened, and I put the music to all. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. And I wrote, when
Right.
you are in the aisles of Walmart handing out gift cards, and it was at the height when things were really tense online. And so, it went viral. Jessica Seinfeld shared it, and it was exciting at first. But then that nice thing, it took me out of my usual nice people bubble. And
Right.
it was funny because it was a nice moment. It wasn't something for people to write horrible things. But then that led to it just like exploding, and people were writing, of course, disgusting comments. And I've learned I ignore those comments, and it wasn't the comments that bother me because I had gotten those before, just, already, and I usually just ignored them. It was more just like it got too intense for me. And then people were a little confused by the reel. Like they thought I was like, well, Jews for peace kind of a thing. And they started following me, but they were not supportive of a Jewish mother. So writing me nasty things. And it felt like the online world was just really overtaking my real world, and I took the reel down. I think that was the right, I had to be comfortable. And then once I put that up there, people started to find all of my page and make comments. So in general, the comments don't bother me when they're manageable, but when it became where I felt like I just wasn't comfortable, and it was more just for my mental sanity. I don't want my phone to be my life. And when that's going on, it just felt like I was living too much in that world and not in the real world. And that's like something that's important for me. So I took the reel down. It actually is on somebody else's page because they took it and put it there. But, and I really I'm not trying to be famous. I want to find the right people. I have them in my community right now. Anybody who, can support and be kind to who I am as a Jewish woman on social media is welcome to stay and be around. But I don't think I had to put myself through that. Other people are doing it, but it didn't feel right for me.
Yeah, it's hard because, like you said, you're doing lots of good things, and even the best of actions comes with scrutiny, and it's a window into a whole world that sometimes is hard to manage.
Yeah.
What do you do in terms of boundaries? In terms of, like you said, you need to separate your Instagram life from real life, and we all need to do, whether we're on social media or just cybernetically attached to our phones. What do you do in terms of creating boundaries?
So I think the first boundary that I set for myself was, nowadays the word relatable is like a super, that's the word. You want to be relatable. And I felt like I couldn't sacrifice my privacy and my boundaries of what I'm comfortable sharing online so that somebody could feel that they could relate to me. So I think the first thing was that I am sharing what I am comfortable sharing of my life. And I think people think that they're seeing my whole life online, but they are completely not. And that I know that it's the responsibility of every person who's viewing social media to have the understanding that what they're seeing is a curated, um, and selected sharing by whoever it is that they're watching. And if and some people really, I don't think, can handle that they're only seeing pieces of maybe the nice parts of somebody's life.
Right.
But if they can't handle it, then they shouldn't be on it. And like my kids, I don't need to share their meltdowns and their tantrums of what everybody should know. I have regular kids, we have a regular life, I have struggles, but I don't, those are my personal boundaries and my privacy that I'm entitled to have, even though I've decided to share some aspects of my life online. And I think that was hard for me because everybody wants to
Right.
be relatable. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm some perfect mom in my perfect house with my perfect kids who are eating my perfect dinners. But I realized that I was entitled to have those boundaries and that privacy of not sharing everything of my life. And I'm allowed to share the things that I'm comfortable with. And that's okay if not everybody can relate to every piece of what I share. I do try to share relatable things still in a way that I'm comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I've had this exact conversation with Nechama a million times. And as you know, being married to a doctor, it's not always fun and games in the hospital, as people sometimes think it's just like incredible and it's like an episode of Scrubs or a Grey's Anatomy or whatever. And I'll tell you something funny. A couple months ago, so Nechama was like scrolling through her social media. She's extremely old, so she's still doing it on Facebook, but. Um, she found this woman who's a nurse where she works, and she hadn't seen her in a little while because sometimes shifts don't overlap and whatever. And this person had posted on Facebook, "I quit my job as a nurse. I'm now totally investing in crypto, and I'm doing classes on how to invest in crypto. I'm making it was like some crazy amount of money, like $300,000 a month." In a fraction of the hours, and look at this amazing vacation I just got back from, and all these crazy posts with pictures of her on like beaches and vacations and whatever. So she kept on saying, "Why am I doing this job of like saving people's lives? I guess, but like, okay, we'll
Yeah,
we'll set that
but
aside.
it's grueling.
Right, it is grueling." And she's like, "Why? Maybe we should do this. Why don't we like quit our jobs and like become crypto people?" I'm like, okay. First of all, that sounds like the kind of thing like an insane person would say, like, let's be crypto people. But like aside from
Yeah,
that, you know how like if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
yes.
So a couple weeks after that, the same nurse posted on Facebook, "Hey everybody, I'm so sorry. I was hacked. Don't click on any of the links." And basically, someone had hacked her account and taken pictures from like old vacations that she had gone on and
Wow.
used them and said, "Look at this vacation I went on yesterday. Look at this vacation I went on yesterday. And I'm making all this money and I quit my job." She's like, "I didn't quit my job. I haven't been on social media in 2 weeks because I'm
She's like, I
working
went on
like."
those vacations because I worked hard and I paid for them.
Yeah. And she's like, "That was from 10 years ago. And that one was from like 15 years ago." And it was so funny. And of course, I said to Nicole, I'm like, "You see?" And she's like, "No, I don't understand. We're still doing this." But you see this window into
Right.
something that looks amazing.
I mean,
But
what I'm sharing is all real. It's really
right,
happened. It is my
right.
true self. It is my true sense. It's just not everything.
Correct. I'm
Um,
not saying that you are
no,
the
I know.
crypto
Yeah,
crazy,
I'm
but
just, like, because all those things are,
yeah,
whatever it is, it's all real and happening. It's just not obviously the entire picture of
for
my
sure.
entire life. And then also just in terms of balancing, I think, I I probably could put out more things that would cause people to engage more and have more discussions, and I probably would have a bigger account for it. But I also, it's important that this is like something I do when my kids are in school, and then that when they're home, I'm not, it could be really addicting to try
Right.
to keep up with like what is somebody saying online and what is somebody messaging back and what are they commenting. So I try not to like open up things that will cause kind of too much engagement in a weird way. Like I love
Right.
to engage and talk to people, but I also have to try and just have a really good separation between online life and real life, and real life has to be the focus, which is hard when you're kind of doing stuff,
Right.
online.
Right.
Um, yeah.
Absolutely. It sounds like you have your priorities in line and you talk about your kids in a really good and healthy way. And we all know as parents that parenting is really tough. And no one's posting pictures from their vacations of like the kids screaming and crying like in the airport, though
Right.
I have those pictures because I'm kind of the nut parent who will be like, oh, that's a great picture. Just,
I do, and I
keep your,
have posted them before. Not on, just in my stories,
yeah,
not on
yeah.
a post, just in a story.
I like to drop them in like the family WhatsApp groups to show
Yeah.
everybody the real story. But you've told me recently that through your kids, you've gotten connected now into the NCSY world in a number of different ways. So tell us what it's been like kind of entering this universe called NCSY and what's your experience been like so far?
Well, I started NCSY when I was a kid. I grew up in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I don't even think I told you about
I
that.
didn't know that. No.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I did NCSY. So I grew up in Cherry Hill, which is a very small town. I had two other girls in my class. My sister had one boy in her class.
Wow.
And NCSY was, a thing that people did. We had Simchaton in our shul frequently. I think it was like every other year at the time. And I did Shabbatons, and it was a really nice thing for, the Jewish youth in Cherry Hill because we kind of didn't have the life that my kids are leading now in Teaneck. It's
Yeah.
very different. The options, there was no yeshiva basketball. They did Little League, and then when the game played on Saturday, you didn't play.
Right.
And so it was really the only thing I think that there was for the Jewish kids in Cherry Hill. And I have like really good memories of NCSY, and I went to Moshe Aaron Yeshiva High School in Central New Jersey, and there were, that's where a lot of kids were doing NCSY at the time. We had kids from kind of communities that NCSY was very prevalent. Um, and now I live in Teaneck in Bergen County with my kids, and it's like a very different atmosphere. It's so nice. I love it to see what my kids have offered to them. My daughter just did Male Wrote, which is a huge dance production. Male Wrote NCSY, and I think there were 220 girls
Wow.
that they did an amazing show. They spent months practicing. And it was such a nice outlet for girls to share their talents um, in such a really beautiful way that was in a Jewish, in a Jewish environment. They were dancing, they were singing. It was women only. Mordechai Shapiro's sisters and his mom performed.
So
And Kira,
fun.
yeah, my daughter Kira's done this now. I think this is her second year. And every year it's just like such a nice thing for the community to have, for the girls to be able to showcase their talents in a Jewish way. And hopefully my kids go on NCSY summer.
Yeah, listen, that seems like summer's awesome. That's
Yeah,
definitely on the radar. Should be on the radar.
right.
So, um, okay, so you've told me that as part of CSY that you started getting involved in some of the local challah bakes in the communities. Do you have any cool stories that you had in some of your challah bakes?
Right. Well, so the NCSY challah bake that I did was recently at the JCC in Tenafly for support for Idan Alexander's family. Um, that was a later, but really the challah making for me started um well, really it was after October 7th when they gave I started baking challah to kind of just to daven,
Right,
and um and I would show it to like my aunt and uncle and my cousins. One of them was in Gaza, and his wife, that like, I was praying for him, and I just wanted them to kind of see it in more than just saying like I'm thinking of them, but like here's the challah that I'm making. And then there was you signed up to make challah for hostage, and I got Alma Or, and I made challah with my kids, in her merit that she should be released. And then I decided that the challah for Alma I couldn't just like put it in my freezer. I had to share it.
Right.
So I went to my neighbors and I knocked on their doors and I gave them challah. And one of the neighbors sent us the most beautiful thank you note. And I just like couldn't believe that she appreciated it so much. But then the most important was I went to we had a challah experience. It wasn't really a challah bake at my friend Lisa Schechter's house with Idan Alexander's mom, Yael.
Oh, wow.
We had Suri Jaraslowitz, who is like kind of the challah lady. She's a Hasidish woman from Borough Park or Brooklyn. Um, and we didn't make the challah, but she shared her stories. She's a pizza lady, and she used to make challah, the bracha on challah, very frequently. And then she kind of started running these challah, like we basically it's like an amen experience where everybody takes challah, says the bracha, and we all say amen. And she just has like miracle after miracle from her challah. And she was so inspiring, and we davened together for Idan's safety and hopefully his release that we still need. And then just from that, I'd always made challah, but I never really connected to the mitzvah so much. And one of the things that she said was better that you make the challah and buy the food than buy the challah and make the food for Shabbos. And
Interesting.
challah is usually like the first thing on the list.
Right.
And I was making challah and I was keeping it in the freezer. But from that experience, I started to feel like I should be making the bracha of challah. And once you I started making challah as much as I possibly could. I tried to do it every single week. I had so much challah, I had to share it. So I started making challah, but also sharing my challah. And then I shared it online, also all of my challah making. So somebody who follows me was like, "Oh, actually no, it was my friend. She's a real friend. She's not a follower. She's my neighbor." And she said, she said that her sister goes to a shul in Linden, New Jersey, and they're looking to do a challah bake, and they kind of wanted somebody to come and be the speaker and the draw. And I was like, I am not a challah lady. I'm just a mom in Teaneck. And then I remembered what Suri said, Jaraslowitz, who ran the challah experience, and she was like, you don't need me to do these things. Just do them. And and then she was a pizza lady. She wasn't what made her a challah lady. She just made a lot of challah and then she started sharing. So I was like, you know what? Okay, I can be a challah lady. And I went to Linden, New Jersey. Um, and it was a really interesting experience because I didn't know anything about Linden. It's a really diverse shul. There is the modern Orthodox kind of the shul there, and there's also a really large Hasidic community. So in that room were women with all different types of looks, and it was really special to be part of just all these different types of women coming out together. And I wrote a speech and I spoke, which I had like a real public speaking phobia. I got over it when my daughter had her bat mitzvah, and I was like, okay, I should speak. And I was able to speak at our simcha, but then it really put me out of my comfort zone. I speak in my phone all the time, but sharing in public is not something like I'm really comfortable with. But sometimes you have to like seize the power within you. And I was like, I can do this. And I brought it, and it was really so special. And then I shared about that. And then somebody else messaged me. This was a follower who said, a neighbor of hers, their son is getting bar mitzvah, and the kids love to like make homemade pasta and they love to cook and bake, and they're looking for someone to bake challah with them. And it was really special for me to be able to share challah with them, and it's just like such a beautiful vehicle. I say that when I share my challah, I share my love, and that's whether it's like actually giving somebody a challah or sharing making challah together. And then that same week, that was on a Sunday, a follower on Instagram, friend from Instagram, because I feel like everybody's my friend, messaged me that her brother works in a corporate office in Manhattan, and they started a Jewish group after October 7th, kind of, I think, looking for support and connection in the
Yeah.
office. And would I go and do a challah bake in Manhattan? So I was like, okay. The challah bake in Linden, they kind of took care of all the supplies and I spoke. So this one I had to get all the supplies and I'm a teacher. I really don't know anything about the corporate world at all. I was like totally out of my element. I like go, it was like across from Grand Central Station, a beautiful building, and I get up, I'm like, my ears were popping in the elevator. We were going all the way up the skyscraper. I was like, oh wow, like, the country mouse. Even though I went to Stern in Manhattan, I've been to the city, but like just never, I never saw an office building like that inside. And like the cubicles, I was like, it's like the movies. There was like literally just like so many cubicles. I'm like, this is where these people spend their day in these cubicles.
Oh my God.
And then we
You're
went to
like a
this.
walking Hallmark movie.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, this is amazing. Like I've seen like medicine, all that stuff and schools, but I just never seen a corporate office. Um, and I led a challah bake with the employees in their, not really a break room. They called it a pantry room. It was beautiful. I brought all the things and there was men and women and I shared about challah and what it has come to mean to me after October 7th. And because there's so much to pray for. So I was making challah and I can't stop because there's still always so much to pray for. And so I just shared that all with them. And then we got to make challah and they really enjoyed it. And it was a great experience. And like, these things just they come and I say yes. And I always say, I'm like, say no when you have to, say yes when you
Yeah.
can. And I have a really busy life. I have, 5 kids. Avi's doing his doctor thing. And I'm very involved in like my community here. So I always have to check myself, say yes when you can, say no when you have to. And sometimes you have to say no, but if I can say yes, I really try um to say yes. And when you do, you just have such beautiful experiences. And I feel like honored that I was able to be part of all of these things. And challah has taken me to some interesting places.
Wow, that is wild and awesome and good for you for rolling with it and embracing it and also having the right mindset to say, hey, sometimes it's yes and I'm in, no problem. And sometimes it's no, and that's healthy. And saying no when you have to is
Yeah,
okay. It's an okay
yeah,
thing to be able to do.
yeah.
Deena, you've been so gracious with your time. Thank you so much. I have one last question. What's coming next? You've had this like incredible list of I don't want to say accidental because we know nothing's accidental. And certainly knowing your personality and your ability to connect to people, none of this comes as a surprise to me that you're doing all this. But do you have like a sort of a vision or a plan of what's next?
I never have a vision or a plan. I kind of I just actually the funnest part about all of this is you just never know what's going to come next. And all of these opportunities are just, I mean, even talking to you here today, it was you messaging me and somehow I just keep getting messages of people with different opportunities. It's a great account to do chesed and to do good things, but it's also for me, my own little business. And those opportunities are really fun for me also. And they all just kind of come when you put yourself out there, things come your way. And that's really the most fun for me is just like, I never know what it's going to be. And I always want to share good and positive and light to the world. The things that are coming up though in the immediate future, this month on February 27th, Avi and I are being honored at our shul dinner.
So cool.
Yeah, shout out to Orsadia and Teaneck. That's based on our communal engagement. I try to be very engaged online and for Israel, but I think it's also so important for everybody to be really active and engaged in their immediate community. So that's kind of where I put a lot of effort into our shul activities. The whole honoring thing is a little uncomfortable for me, but I think it's going to be a beautiful night. I'm running for the World Zionist Congress with Aish. I'm a candidate on the Aish slate and a lot of amazing people.
Wow.
And yeah, so I'm running for that. And I am just continuing to try and show up for Israel and for everybody to know that, it's been a long time, but that we're always here. We're far away, but our hearts with everybody in Israel to continue advocating for the hostages, to continue praying, making challah. I'm going to continue making challah every week until they're all home. Although I think that when they all are home, which hopefully is really soon, I probably will still keep making challah, but I say until they are all home, I'm going to keep making challah and praying and sharing it and hopefully just putting Jewish love out there, and that we should be proud of who we are. We should be so thankful that we are part of this amazing nation, and to just have a positive outlook and enjoying it and having fun.
Incredible. What a message. Deena, so much fun to reconnect and to have you on the show. You're doing awesome
Yeah.
things. And certainly we want to hear all about how this election goes. So keep me posted because that's
Yes, and
really
everybody
interesting.
should register to vote for the World Zionist Congress.
Deena, thank you so much for joining us. This has been Deena Friedman. You can find her on Instagram at Fun in the BC. You can find NCSY Pulse on Instagram at NCSY Pulse. You can find us on YouTube at NCSY Pulse and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.